Darkness had always been a part of Michael's city, but that night, the darkness felt different. It wasn't just a blackout. It was a reflection of his life, a truth he could no longer ignore. Michael pushed open the door, the familiar creak echoing through the empty house. Silence swallowed him, thick and heavy. Once, this home had been alive, filled with laughter, the pitter-patter of little feet, the warmth of love. But now, just walls, furniture, and a silence too loud to bear. That night, Connie seemed different. Her dress was too perfect, her perfume unfamiliar. When he asked, "Can I come with you?" she only smiled, a second too late. "It's a company party, Michael. You'll be bored." Something snapped inside him. He followed her. The venue was grand, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. He blended in, unnoticed, until he overheard a conversation. "Doug has big plans for Connie." The laughter that followed wasn't casual. It was knowing, as if everyone understood something he didn't. His pulse quickened. He searched the hall, moving past elegant guests, dim corridors, and closed doors, until he found her. Connie stood, close to Doug, a soft smile on her lips. When Doug's hand brushed her arm, she didn't pull away. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but not to Michael. In that moment, he knew some truths once seen could never be unseen. Michael recognized that look. He had seen it before. The way she moved, the way she smiled when she was near him. And in that moment, he knew Connie wasn't just there for work. Hidden in the dim glow of the corridor, he stood frozen, watching as the truth unraveled before his eyes. Doug leaned toward Connie, whispered something that made her smile, a smile Michael hadn't seen in years. It was effortless, warm, and intimate in a way that sent a sharp pang through his chest. Before he could fully absorb what was happening, Doug reached for her, fingers grazing her skin with a familiarity that made Michael's stomach churn. Then, he kissed her. It wasn't uncertain, not a mistake, not a fleeting lapse in judgment. It was deliberate, expected, and worst of all, welcomed. Connie didn't pull away, didn't hesitate, didn't even glance around in guilt. She closed her eyes and leaned in, as if this wasn't the first time, as if this was their routine. Something inside Michael fractured. His breath came slow, controlled, but he felt hollow, like the very air had been stolen from his lungs. His hands trembled, not with anger, but with clarity. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and silently opened the camera. If this was what Connie had chosen, then she would have to face it. He held the phone steady, recording the undeniable evidence, the betrayal, the surrender, the truth in its rawest form. He didn't need explanations or excuses. He just needed the undeniable reality staring back at him. His mind scrambled for reasons, for some misplaced hope that this wasn't what it seemed. But there were no illusions left to cling to. If she had hesitated, if there had been even the smallest flicker of remorse, maybe he could have believed she was conflicted. But there was nothing, just acceptance. And that, more than anything, was the deepest cut of all. Michael couldn't. Remember the last time she had looked at him like that? The last time she had kissed him with such ease? The realization hit hard. He had lost this battle long before he even knew he was fighting one. His fists clenched involuntarily, the impulse to storm in, to drag Doug away, to demand the truth bubbling under his skin. But he suppressed it. That wasn't who he was. He took a slow breath, absorbing the moment, letting the pain settle without letting it take control. Then, he stepped back. Another step, then another. He turned away from the shadows, walking out unnoticed. They were two, lost in each other to see him slip away. As he re-entered the ballroom, the world carried on as if nothing had happened. Music played, glasses clinked, laughter echoed around him. But for Michael, everything had changed. He moved through the crowd, expressionless, his heart a quiet storm. There would be no confrontation, no yelling, no scene, just an ending, and it would be on his terms. He walked out of the venue, his footsteps steady, his decision final. Sliding into his car, he shut the door with a click that felt eerily final. He glanced at his reflection in the rearview mirror. His face was calm, but his eyes told the real story. There was no rage, no outburst waiting to erupt. Just silence. Cold. Absolute. The drive home was quiet. No music, no distractions, just the hum of tires against the pavement. The city lights guided him like silent beacons on a road with no return. When he finally parked in front of their house, he didn't rush inside. He sat there for a moment, feeling the weight of what he had just witnessed. The house was lit from the outside, a place that once felt warm, now reduced to a hollow shell. He stepped out and walked in, the emptiness greeting him like an old friend. Everything was exactly as he had left it, cold, silent, impersonal. It wasn't a home anymore, just a stage for a marriage long dead. Without hesitation, he walked into his office, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a folder of documents. The divorce papers had been sitting there for months, once considered, then ignored, as if signing them would mean admitting defeat. But now, they were no longer just an option. They were inevitable. He set the folder on the living room table, flipping it open to the signature line. Then, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and opened the last recording. The video played, clear, undeniable. Without looking away, he hit the share button and sent it to Connie. No words, no explanation, just the truth. Beside the divorce papers, he placed a small velvet box, the same one he had used the day he proposed, a symbol of the beginning. Now, it marked the end. Michael didn't go upstairs. He didn't want to see her come home, didn't want to hear her pretend, didn't need her lies. He had all the truth he would ever need. Half an hour later, tires screeched outside. Then, the front door burst open. Connie stumbled in, her breath ragged, her hair in disarray, her face pale as she clutched her phone. The screen's glow illuminated her features, wide eyes filled with panic. She looked like she had run the entire way, like the weight of reality had crashed down on her the second she saw the message. Michael sat on the couch, unmoving, calm, detached. "Michael," she breathed, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think, the classic excuse." He said nothing, only tilted his head slightly as if waiting to see how deep she'd dig herself into a lie. I can explain," she stammered, taking a step forward, gripping her phone like it could somehow erase what had already been done. Michael let out a low, hollow chuckle. "Explain?" he finally said, his voice devoid of emotion. "Explain what? That wasn't you? That wasn't your boss? That kiss never happened?" Connie opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. There was no excuse, no escape. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting match could have been. Michael stood, slow and deliberate. He didn't need to argue. The evidence spoke for itself, and the decision had already been made. To be continue. If you want part 2, please be seated and wait for part 2.